You are on tips and streams with your host, Coca.
What's good, Hoop fam? Koken here, locked in and ready to break down 4 NBA battles on the slate. Strap in and let's get right into the action. The first prediction for today's NBA games is for the game between the Cleveland Cavaliers and Atlanta Hawks. When I look at this matchup, the first thing that jumps out at me is the contrast in identity between these two squads. The Hawks want to turn every possession into a track meet, run shooters off handoffs, and simply outgun you for 48 minutes. But the Cavs, they bring a brand of basketball that travels, defense, structure, and a steady dose of shot making when it matters. Atlanta is coming off a rough night against Washington, and I can't ignore how shaky they've been when their defense stops showing up. Giving up well over 100 points to a team that's still searching for rhythm tells me that their focus comes and goes. And without Trae Young orchestrating the offense, the Hawks rely heavily on individual creation. Sure, Jalen Johnson has been hooping, and Porzingis gives them size and touch, but the offensive flow isn't the same, and the turnovers creep in when the game tightens. Meanwhile, Cleveland, even with injuries, hasn't lost its edge. I've followed this team closely, and I like how they respond after a bad shooting night. Donovan Mitchell rarely has 2 quiet games in a row. When he comes off a 6-4-20 performance, I expect him to come out firing, and historically, he bounces back with efficient nights. Mobley, Hunter, and the young rotation pieces give this group stability even when key bodies are missing. One thing I always emphasize, road composure, and the Cavs actually grade out better than people expect when they leave Ohio. Their ball movement doesn't disappear, their spacing holds up, and they've got enough defensive juice to bother teams that rely heavily on rhythm jumpers, which is exactly the Hawks. Cleveland's three-point volume also matters here. When a team takes this many shots from deep and has legit creators setting the table, you can withstand short scoring droughts. Atlanta, on the other hand, needs those scoring runs at home to open the floor, and if they don't get stops, those runs shrink fast. What concerns me about the Hawks is not their talent. They've got plenty, but their habit of giving opponents easy rhythm. Too many straight-line drives, too many open kickouts, and long stretches where their closeouts feel a step slow. That's dangerous against Cleveland, because the Cavs don't need a perfect game to control the pace. They just need to turn it into a half-court chess match, and Atlanta historically struggles when the tempo slows down. Yes, the Hawks have had success in this arena against Cleveland in the past, but this particular Cavs team is much more balanced and has more ways to win. And I keep coming back to how Atlanta performs after a loss. They play with energy offensively, but the defensive issues don't magically disappear overnight, especially against a team that punishes mistakes. At the end of the day, when I combine the matchup, the form, the injuries, and how these teams close games, I trust the Cavs to dictate the style of play. And when Cleveland dictates the style, they usually walk out with a win by a solid margin. My prediction is that the Cavaliers win this game and cover the -4.5 spread. Today's second prediction is for the game between the Chicago Bulls and Charlotte Hornets. When I look at this matchup, I see two teams moving in opposite directions. The Bulls may not be perfect, but they're showing me the kind of offensive rhythm and spacing that travels well. Every time I watch Kobe White, Josh Giddey, and Ayo Dosunmu share the floor, I see a backcourt trio that pushes pace, reads gaps, and punishes teams that can't rotate quickly enough. They just put up 130 on the Pelicans, and even though the defense let them down, the shot creation and ball movement were exactly what I want to see from a team walking into a winnable road game. Charlotte, on the other hand, looks like a group still trying to figure out who they are. I've watched their last few games closely, and the pattern is the same night after night. The effort is there early, but once opponents start hunting mismatches or pushing them off the line, the Hornets fall into long stretches where they simply can't keep up. Allowing teams to shoot comfortably from deep has been a major issue, and when you're facing a Bulls squad that can pour it in from the perimeter, that's a dangerous combination. Offensively, the Hornets have enough young talent to produce flashes, but they struggle to build consistency. LaMelo Ball, Miles Bridges, and Brandon Miller have moments where they look sharp, yet the rhythm fades as quickly as it comes. Ball's foul trouble, Miller's still adjusting after injury, and Bridges carrying heavy usage all create gaps that opponents have been exploiting repeatedly. For me, This looks like a team that needs stability and structure, and until they find it, they're going to be vulnerable, especially against teams with strong guard play. Chicago's advantage becomes even clearer when I think about the matchup history. I've seen these two teams play plenty of times, and the Bulls usually dictate tempo, force turnovers at the right moments, and knock down big shots that swing momentum. Even with their own defensive flaws, the Bulls tend to play with more poise than Charlotte, especially late in games. Add in the fact that the Bulls shooters are in rhythm and their ball movement has been crisp, and it's hard not to trust them here. Another thing that stands out to me is Chicago's ability to get the most out of role players. Kobe White is playing with confidence. AO has been attacking aggressively, and Giddey is orchestrating the offense with precision. When the Bulls get that kind of synergy from their guards, it lifts the entire roster, even when they're missing a piece on the interior. I expect those three to set the tone again, especially against a Hornets defense that has struggled all season to stay connected. As for Charlotte, losing at home the way they have, and losing consistently, tells me this team simply isn't defending with the urgency you need to pull an upset. They're getting outscored, outshot, and out-rebounded, and that's the worst combination you can bring into a matchup with Chicago. I don't see enough defensive resistance to keep the Bulls' perimeter firepower in check. So when I put everything together, the guard play, the matchup history, the defensive gaps on the Charlotte side, and the Bulls' growing offensive groove, the path becomes very clear for me. My prediction is, I'm going to play the Bulls to win and cover the 1.5-point spread against the Hornets. The third prediction for today is for the game between the Orlando Magic and Detroit Pistons. On paper, it looks tight, but when I dig into the numbers and the matchup, I see a spot where I want to ride with the home side. Let me start with Detroit. This team has gone from rebuilding story to straight-up problem for the rest of the conference. 15 wins in 18 games, a 13-game heater in the books, and their only recent slip was that 3-point loss in Boston, where they actually had a shot to push it to overtime at the buzzer. Cade Cunningham dropped 42 in that one, added boards and playmaking, and showed again that he is the engine of this offense. The Pistons are not winning smoke and mirror games. They are winning with a real identity. Offensively, they are putting up close to 120 points a night on very efficient shooting from the field, and they crash the glass hard with more than 46 rebounds per game. Jalen Duren has taken a huge leap inside, owning the paint, finishing everything around the rim, and cleaning the boards. Tobias Harris and the rest of that rotation give them size, physicality, and secondary scoring. Detroit is top tier on both ends by rating, and at home, they have been a wagon, taking 8 of 9 and regularly covering the number in this building. Defensively, they are just as serious. Opponents are shooting in the mid-40s from the field against them, and Detroit is first in the league at limiting assists, which tells me they are not allowing easy ball movement and rhythm. They force turnovers, protect the paint, and finish possessions with rebounds. When you mix that kind of defense with an offense that can score inside and out, you get exactly what we see right now, a team sitting at the top of the conference. Now, I have to give Orlando their respect because they come in hot as well. After a rough 1-4 start, they turned the corner and stacked wins. They are 11-8 overall, and they just embarrassed Philadelphia on the road, dropping 144 points and setting franchise records with 51 points in the second quarter and 86 in the first half. Anthony Black came off the bench and exploded for 31. Franz Wagner did his thing with efficient scoring, and they moved the ball beautifully with 30-plus assists. This Magic group lives on defense. Over the last few weeks, they have played like one of the better defensive teams in the league, forcing turnovers and using their length to bother ball handlers. On offense, they are quietly scoring at a high clip as well, close to 120 points per game on strong field goal percentages. They also lean heavily on free throws, leading the league in attempts and makes, and a big chunk of their points comes from the stripe. When they are locked in and getting downhill, they are a handful. But this is not an ideal spot for them. First, they are on the road, where they have been good but not elite. They have dropped more than they have won away from home, and their defensive numbers outside Orlando are not as sharp. They have allowed opponents to get loose from behind the line, and they have had stretches of shaky perimeter defense. On top of that, they are missing Paolo Banchero and Moritz Wagner again, which takes away a primary creator and an important big man from the rotation. That matters a lot when you are facing a physical Detroit front line that already controls the interior. Matchup-wise, I see Detroit's size and rebounding as a major edge. The Pistons already handled this Magic team once this season with a 135-116 win, dominating the paint and dictating the tempo. If they protect the ball, punish Orlando inside, and stay disciplined defending without sending the Magic to the line all night, they should be able to lean on their home crowd and wear them down over 4 quarters. Trend-wise, the home team has been cashing in this head-to-head, and Detroit has been extremely reliable against the number in this arena. Orlando has had trouble covering in this building, and they walk in after an emotional blowout win in Philadelphia, which sets up a classic letdown spot. Detroit, meanwhile, is coming off that tough loss in Boston and will be eager to bounce right back in front of their fans and protect that top spot in the conference. So, when I put it all together, Detroit's balanced profile, their home dominance, the edge on the glass, and Orlando missing key pieces, I know where I want to go with this one. My prediction is this: I am backing the Pistons at home. I am taking Detroit to win this game and to cover the 1.5-point spread against the Magic. Today's last prediction is for the game between the Spurs and Nuggets. Whenever the Spurs roll into Ball Arena, the game usually takes on its own rhythm. Denver tries to overwhelm opponents with offensive pace and home court energy, while San Antonio leans into structure, toughness, and guys stepping up when stars are missing. That contrast sets the stage for a real grinder of a matchup. Let me start with Denver. I've been watching this Nuggets team all season, and they continue to look like one of the sharpest half-court offenses in the league. Even with Aaron Gordon and Christian Braun sidelined, they're still running that clean, machine-like spacing built around Nikola Jokic. The man's running the show like it's another day at the office, controlling tempo, manipulating matchups, and making every cut look like a conversion drill. Jamal Murray has been on a heater himself, reading defenses early, walking into rhythm pull-ups, and keeping defenses honest with that downhill burst. Peyton Watson has also turned into a legit pressure valve. When he gets going, Denver suddenly looks 2-layer deep in scoring options. But as much as Denver lights it up at home, their defense has had moments where it leaks just enough to keep underdogs alive. Teams that attack early in the shot clock, push pace after makes, and dare Denver's second unit to defend usually find room to operate. And that's exactly where I think San Antonio has real value tonight. The Spurs come in wounded, no Mbanyama, no Castle, and they're still juggling pieces. But this team has been playing with a chip on its shoulder. De'Aaron Fox is flat out carrying them when they need an alpha. He's been slicing through defenses, pulling up confidently, and managing games with a veteran's poise. Devin Vassell continues to look like the perfect secondary option, especially when he's dialed in from deep and crashing the glass. The young supporting cast has been sneaky good. Guys like Champagny and the rest of that bench have been giving San Antonio second chance looks, hustle plays, and the kind of defensive activity that travels on the road. When I watch this version of the Spurs, I see a group that doesn't get rattled by scoring swings. They don't have the superstar tonight, but they have structure, effort, and a backcourt that plays without fear, and that matters when you're walking into Denver's altitude. Their rebounding, their defensive rotations, and their late clock execution have been far better than people expected, and those details are exactly what keep games inside the number. And let's not ignore the matchup history. The Spurs have actually cashed tickets against these Nuggets in 3 of the last 4 meetings. They grind Denver's rhythm, force them into off-timing possessions, and turn it into a possession-by-possession battle rather than a free-flowing shootout. When San Antonio keeps teams under control in transition and closes out with discipline, they don't just hang around. They make you work for everything. So what does all this mean for tonight? It means Denver probably gets the win, but I don't see a blowout. I see stretches where Denver's offense surges and stretches where San Antonio's pace and shot-making punch right back. I see enough competitive fire, enough guard play, and enough defensive presence from the Spurs to keep this margin respectable deep into the 4th quarter. And that brings me to my pick. I trust the Spurs to fight, compete, and grind, even in a tough building. My prediction is, I'm playing the Spurs to cover the 9.5-point spread.